Hi and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make homemade flour tortillas. And let's get started. This is the recipe that I know and this is the ingredients we're going to need. So to get started, we're going to sift 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and then we're going to use 3/4 of a cup of lard, which is manteca in Spanish. And then we're gonna use 1 teaspoon, which is gonna be sea salt that I'm using. And we're gonna use baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And then we're gonna use, we have already ready 2 cups here of warm water and 1 cup just in case. Because we don't know how much water we're gonna use in total, but we're gonna do the exact measurements. So we have in total 3 cups of water. So let's get started. The first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna sift our flour. So we're gonna get 4 cups of flour. So we're gonna start with the first one. So we're gonna do one cup of flour, and then we're gonna do the second cup, I'm sorry. The second, the third, and the fourth. So in total we're doing 4 cups, 1/2 of a teaspoon of baking powder. So now we're gonna sift it, make sure everything mixes well together and we don't have no little crumbs going in there. So see, it's nice and nothing was in little crumbs. And now we're gonna give it a little mix, just a little mix, to make sure that all our salt and our baking powder has mixed with our flour. So there we go, we gave it a good mix. So now the most important thing when it comes to making flour tortillas, the most important thing is the mix of your flour. So mixing it around is the most important thing, and make sure that you have your measurements correctly. So here we have 3/4 of a cup of manteca. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it into the flour and we're gonna start mixing the lard into the flour. So my hands are super clean. I washed them 3 times, make sure everything was nice and clean before we started making our tortillas. So we're gonna start squeezing our lard into our flour to make our flour tortillas. And yes, we're using lard. I know a lot of people don't like to use it. You could use vegetable shortening, or you could use oil. It's up to you. You know, whatever you feel comfortable with. You don't have to do it exactly like I do it, but this is like the traditional way that we used to make tortillas in my house. I remember being like around 7 years old the first time I started making tortillas. My mom would make them every day for her 8 children she had. Yes, my mother had 8 children and raised them. And we had homemade tortillas almost every day. And me and my sister used to make them all the time. To the time I left home when I got married, we used to make homemade tortillas at home. So see, we mix our lard. It's nice and mixed with we gave it a good mix, and it's nice and mixed with our flour and our ingredients. And now we're ready to start adding our warm water. It can be boiling water. It has to be like warm water, not room temperature water. So what I did, I put half cold water and half hot water, and we ended up with warm water. So here we go. We mix our masa, our flour with our lard, and it's nice and mixed. It looks like we gave it a good mix. So now we're gonna start working our water into our flour to make our homemade tortillas. So now we're gonna start adding. So we're gonna add. We added a cup and a half of water. So now we're gonna start mixing it. So it looks like we're gonna add a little bit of more flour because it looks like a cup and a half of water was too much. Now we're gonna open this up and add a little bit more of flour. So we're gonna add half a cup of flour. Mix it around. So now it's getting unstuck from my hands. And when it gets unstuck from your hands, you know, kind of like the mixture is kind of fine with the water you put in it. So now we're gonna mix it around. And I should have wore short sleeves instead of long sleeves today, but I'm gonna make it work. So here we go. So now the most important thing is that we're working our dough. We're making our tortilla masa really nice, and the most important thing is that working it, giving it a good mix. And another thing we're gonna do, we're gonna let our tortilla masa or tortilla dough rest. And the longer you let it rest, the better your tortillas are gonna be, the softer. So just remember that I'm gonna let my tortillas sit for my dough before I make my tortillas. Once we're done mixing it around, gonna let them sit for we're gonna let our masa, our dough, rest for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. Like I say, the longer you let it rest, the better. So in total, we're gonna mix our dough for about a good 10 minutes. So just to let you know, if you get tired of looking at me mixing my masa, just fast forward. It took me, I've been mixing it for about 9 minutes, so 1 more minute and that's it. So you kind of get the concept. We mix it around, give it a good mix around, and then we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna cover it and we're gonna let it rest. Okay, so now we're gonna cover it and we're gonna let it rest. We're gonna cover it with plastic paper. You could cover it with a plastic bag, you could cover it with parchment paper. So I'm gonna cover it with parchment paper. See? And once you cover it, to make sure that it doesn't get no air on it, I'm gonna cover it with a kitchen towel. Well, actually, I can't find my kitchen towels. I put them in the laundry. So we're gonna cover it with our mittens. And like I said, after an hour, we'll come back and we'll start working our tortilla. So here we go. We waited for almost 2 hours, and now here's our tortilla masa, or our tortilla dough, and we're gonna start making our homemade tortillas. So I disinfected my my counter. I disinfected, and now we're gonna start making it on the counter, the tortillas, the flour tortilla. So we're gonna need half of a cup of flour, and we're gonna put flour on the counter where we're gonna start to roll our homemade tortillas. So we're gonna get a little bit of masa. And now we're gonna roll it. One, and then we turn, and then we turn to the other side. And there you go, we start making our homemade flour tortillas. And there you go, you turn it and then you turn it on the other side and you start giving it form. So, and then we move them around like this so we could extend them a little bit. And then we're gonna give it another. And then it looks like this one's ready to go. So I'm gonna sit it on the side, put a little bit of flour, and sit it on the side and keep on making another one until I'm gonna check my the skillet that we're gonna use. It's a traditional skillet. Let me show it to you. My mom brought me this one from Mexico. So it's like a cast iron, and it gets really hot. So I have it on number 4, so I could just get it hot, and then I'm gonna bring it down to like a number 3. So medium high right now. And as soon as it gets nice and hot, we're gonna start to make our tortillas. So we're gonna go back to rolling our tortillas. So now we're gonna do our second tortilla. So you just grab, a little bit of masa. You could roll it around and then put it on the flour. Put a little bit of flour on there we go. Then you roll it on the other side. And then you turn it around again and roll it on the other side. You see? And every time you roll it, you change positions. So you could start making the shape of your tortilla round. Mine are not perfectly round. My mom makes them perfectly round. It's just all the years of practice she has. But I try my best. And there you go, we have another tortilla. So we're just gonna give it a little bit of, and there you go, this one's done. So we're gonna start making another one. And I'm gonna throw flour here, and then get some more dough and start making our tortilla. So see, This is how much we get, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna start rolling. My grandma used to make them like this by hand, but I'm gonna roll them. So make sure you always put flour on the bottom, and then there you go. If you press too hard, that's what happens. You just gotta give it a little bit of pressure, but not that much. See? I'm gonna bring down the temperature on my skillet so they won't burn when I put them. So I think we're gonna put our first tortilla on the, so you can see. And I'm gonna move it around like, and there you go. We're making our first flour tortilla. And it's gonna get nice and bubbly, and that's perfectly fine. That's what you actually want. You don't wanna, I don't bring down the bubblies that happen on the tortillas, I just let them be. See, when it starts cooking, it starts to do that. And they look nice and pretty, see? Beautiful. And that's what you're looking for. And then I just washed this one, and this is where we're gonna put our cooked tortillas. So we just fold it in half, and once your tortilla's done, you put it in there so you could keep them nice and warm. So when you feed your family members the tortillas, they're nice and warm. And we just put them inside this. See? It's nice and beautiful. And this one's done. And now we're gonna put another one. And if it has a hole in it, it's okay. It's like they're homemade. If we were gonna sell them, we wouldn't sell them with holes in it, but we're gonna eat them here at the house, so we're okay. So see, and it smells delicious. Like, I wish you could smell how they smell. It's, once you start making tortillas, it's just, the whole house gets the aroma. Now we're gonna flip it. And flipping tortillas with your fingers, just with your fingers, it's a practice that comes with time. You know, we started making them when we were little, and I'm used to it. You know, my daughter, when she does she warms up a tortilla in the little cast iron skillet that we have. She uses a spatula because she doesn't have the practice. You know, because a lot of people burn themselves, but I'm so used to it. And this is perfectly fine. Your tortilla is just cooking. It looks beautiful. Smells wonderful. And of course, I could imagine the taste. And we're gonna eat them with homemade beans. And I made chile verde, and that's what we're gonna eat our tortillas with. It's gonna be delicious. So this one's done. See, nice and fluffy and beautiful, it's soft. So now we're gonna put the other one. And that's it, you just put them on the side, keep them warm, and then you keep on going. So My mom used to flip them up like this, and my grandma did too, so I still do it. And I just made a hole in it, but it's okay. Now we finished making all our homemade tortillas, and let me show you one. See? It's nice and soft, and see, you could bend it, and it's delicious. See? I'll put some beans in mine. See? Put beans. I made beans, and then I made chile verde, which I have a video too if you want to see it. So we're gonna add our chile verde. See? And now we're gonna eat our tortilla. And it's delicious. I wanna drop it. So see? Delicious. See? Mmm.